World War II, the bloodiest war mankind has ever known. 6 years of non-stop combat raging across most of the Eastern Hemisphere. During those 6 years, an estimated 60 million people died, averaging to a terrifying kill count of about 1,100 people dying per hour. For 6 years, darkness swept over the earth, wrapping everyone with fear. But even during those 6 monstrous years, there were many accounts, many stories of the incredible bravery of so many bringing light to the darkened world. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Jeremiah Hosteller, and welcome to Infinite Journeys. When thinking of the horrors of World War II, one may become depressed by the sheer ferocity and intensity of the brutal nature of it. But even in the worst war of world history, we can still find beacons of light. One such beacon started in the small town of Lynchburg, Virginia. His name was Desmond Doss. Having been raised in a Seventh-day Adventist home, Doss grew to honor many traditional Seventh-day beliefs, including a special focus on the 10 Commandments, specifically the 5th, stating "Thou shalt not kill," taking it to a higher level by always refusing to carry a gun. In March 1941, Doss decided to become a ship joiner. He worked at that same shipyard until April of 1942, after the United States formally entered World War II. For his service at the shipyard, Doss was offered deferment from serving. Instead of taking the offer, Doss enlisted in the United States Army and trained at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. Keeping his views of the Bible in mind, Doss joined the Army as a combat medic, hoping that he would not have to carry a gun. His view on guns, as well as his belief of the Seventh-day Sabbath, earned him a very unpopular reputation amongst his superiors and fellow enlistees, oftentimes to the point of sustaining physical and mental abuse from those around him. He would eventually gain the respect of many in his company by constantly going above and beyond to care for them. After jogs or hikes, he would tend to anyone sustaining blisters and treat them all. Eventually, he would pass basic training and serve in the war in the Pacific, mainly the war on Japan. In order to start the Japanese invasion, Allied forces had to capture a strategic beach home on Okinawa. This island would prove to be one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. The Japanese relied on 2 main types of attack to push back Allied forces. Kamikaze attacks, where a Japanese pilot would intentionally crash an explosive-filled aircraft into American soldiers, and attrition, as they would hide in the caves they built in the hills of the beach, forcing Americans to come in with infantry. This specific battle would come to be known as the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge. Once employed there, Doss's company would need to take and hold the ridge until Allied command could set up an invasion on the Japanese mainland. The initial attack was a success. The Americans took the ridge and held it until a massive surprise attack from the Japanese forced American forces to retreat. Instead of retreating, however, Doss decided that he had to stay and treat the many wounded soldiers left from the attack. In the dead of night, Doss sought out the cries of wounded soldiers. He would treat their wounds, drag them to the ridge, then lower them down the ridge to an American encampment. Soldier after soldier, Doss would continually suffer horrible blisters on his hands and feet, but never stopped. After each injured soldier rescued, Doss would continually ask God to help him get one more, and he continually asked again and again. One of the soldiers, a young man, had so much dried blood over his eyes that he was blinded. In an interview in 2003, Doss said this, quote, "Blood had run down his face and eyes. He was laying there just groaning and calling for a medic. I took water from my canteen and got some bandages, and I washed his face. When the blood was washed from his face, he lit up. He said, "I thought I was blind." If I hadn't gotten anything more from the war than that smile that he gave me, I would have been well repaid. From that night alone, Doss ended up saving the lives of 75 soldiers, including the lives of some Japanese. His bravery not only earned him the respect of every soldier and officer in his regiment, but he ended up being awarded the Medal of Honor, the most prestigious medal awarded in the United States military. The story of Desmond T. Doss serves as an example of what happens when you shine your light in the darkness of this world. Yes, times have changed. We are living in the darkest time period in world history. Lights go out all the time now. But remember this, there will always be a light shining in the darkness as long as there is someone who is willing to light it. You just listened to Infinite Journeys. I'm your host, Jeremiah Hostel. Have a fantastic week.